verified. Priority 1 message from Starfleet coming in on secured channel.
Hello, captains, and Happy New Year. Welcome back to the live recording of episode 395. Welcome back to Priority 1 podcast, Tuesday nights with us, as Anthony tackles his way down into the chair.
Starting off the year with a bang.
It's graceful as a collapsing bridge.
So we have some great tech that we tested at the end of last year, a few weeks ago, and are testing and are doing it tonight. Okay, we are currently streaming to Twitch, to YouTube, to Facebook, and to Paratone. What?
Paratone?
You completely threw me off. I saw you do this, and I don't know what. And Periscope on Twitter.
It looks like you're doing an ASMR video there for a second. You're just like caressing the camera.
So we are so very thrilled, and the nice thing about this is that we can all like talk. Like we can all like if you go to YouTube and you type on YouTube, you can it's all cross. So we get to see all the chats. And look, I've added a nice, cool little chat thing, so you all can see each other chatting with one another. Isn't that cool?
Nice.
Isn't that precious?
Oh, I miss the church lady.
So yeah. Anyway, so hi, Happy New Year. Welcome back, guys.
Hi.
Happy New Year.
Did you guys have a good? You guys have a good holiday? You guys do well on this holiday?
I did. I had a really nice sort of relaxing. I forgot all about work and everything. I went to Disneyland twice, and just generally had a really good time. I got some Star Trek things for Christmas, which I was very excited about. You want to see that? Look at that.
What's that?
It's a bracelet that in Morse code says "Live long and prosper." So
wow,
it's very cool. Yeah, it's very cool. So Star Trek-y things, but yeah.
I did not go to Disneyland or Disney World, but my in-laws have gifted us a trip to Disney World in November.
How exciting. That's a really good time of year to go to.
Well, I mean, it's mostly for our kids, but they're very excited. So,
what about you, Elijah?
I had a great holiday. I spent it up in Connecticut with my girlfriend, and yeah, it was great. It was a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful holiday. For the first time since I've been in high school, I felt like I celebrated Christmas, the holiday. Like I had never put up a tree. I never, I haven't done that since I was in high school. But my girlfriend and I put up a tree, and it was just sweet and nice and great, and Connecticut was awesome, and yeah, just overall real well.
Did you have a white Christmas?
A dusting of on Christmas Eve.
Oh, that's perfect. It did rain here on Christmas, which I count. I actually meant because so while I was wrapping Christmas presents pre-Christmas, I actually watched White Christmas, the movie, for the first time, the musical for the first time, and you did that last year, didn't you, Elijah?
Yes, I was.
Last year.
I played Bob in White
Christmas. Which one? Which character?
That's Bing's Bing Crosby's character.
White Christmas
was actually it's actually one of my favorite holiday movies.
But you see, I don't understand that.
That and Die Hard and Gremlins
and The Wrath of Khan.
Okay, all right. So non-Christmas movies that happen to be around that are filmed. The film takes place.
No, they just released a trailer. Fox just released a trailer for Die Hard, calling it the ultimate Christmas story.
Okay.
Facts. Those are facts.
I get. Well,
okay.
Fox News, alternate facts.
I was gonna say.
I didn't say Fox News. I said 20th Century Fox.
Oh, right.
It was for the 4K Blu-ray release for Die Hard.
So yeah. All right. Well, we've got a lot to cover. We've adjusted a bit of our scheduling a little bit because it was getting a little crazy to stay up until 3 o'clock in the morning doing after hours and other stuff. So we just finished recording after hours for our patrons.
Before hours, after hours.
Before hours, after hours. Where we reviewed and discussed the season opener for the Orville. So if you're interested in that, if you want to find out and listen to our rantings about the Orville, then we encourage you to head over to our Patreon page at patreon.com/priority1 and think about becoming a contributor this year. $10 a month. That's divided by 4, $2.50 an episode, 2 and change an episode.
I was gonna say, why is he doing math? It's really confused me for a second. Yes, he's right though. He's right though.
That's it. It's $2.50 an episode. For after hours, and of course the raw unedited recording of Priority One podcast. That people at our patrons at the $10 level also get early access to interviews. So for instance, sometimes we'll interview a dev or a guest on Wednesday or Tuesday morning, and I just
for instance 1 month from today.
Or 1 month from what's 1 month from today?
Oh my gosh.
We're going to crypto. Do you not remember?
Yeah. It's literally in 30 days.
Yeah.
So,
one month from today.
Yeah. So we'll be, we put that up on our Patreon page, and yeah, it's, think about it, $10 a month. And if you can't, you can even do $1 a month. If many of you do $1 a month, that's great too. It doesn't have to be 10. That's my sales pitch. Thanks for the support, guys. Appreciate it.
Actually, quite a lot of the people that watch us on the Tuesday night are also Patreon supporters, so
True.
thank you.
Happy New Year, Craig. Craig Marshall is watching us on YouTube right now.
Ooh.
Nice.
Very cool.
Yeah.
This is kind of exciting and kind of crazy. Does anybody use Periscope anymore?
I mean, maybe. I don't know. I don't know. Go on Twitter and see if anybody's watching with you.
I would like to just shout out to everybody in the Facebook chat who is continuing to discuss Die Hard as a Christmas movie.
Yeah, look at that. Look, if you go on our Twitter page, we are live. There is a post, and we are streaming on our Twitter page.
Cool. Can it stream to Instagram Live yet?
I don't think so.
Okay, we'll work on that.
We will work on that. Nice. So hi folks on Periscope. Hi folks on Twitter. It's great to have you.
We should be able to theoretically see everybody who's chatting. So I can see Jamal Taylor, and I can also see Will Wright chatting with us on Facebook. So hello, guys.
How are you seeing?
Kind of cool, this cross-platform thing. Because I'm watching the stream.
Oh, I see. Oh, you're watching my little ticker.
Yeah, I'm watching
on
your ticker on
in
the stream.
Yeah.
I don't have Facebook on my phone anymore. I used to watch the chat go by on my phone, but I have removed social media from my mobile devices, with the exception of Instagram, and so I'm watching it on my browser.
Hello, Jason Smith over on Twitch. Thanks for watching us there.
Hey, Jason.
All right, let's do a show.
What?
Yep.
What now?
So is it 3, 2, 1 or 3, 2?
No, it's
Oh my
3,
gosh.
2, go.
Okay, well,
but don't say the go.
Don't say the
No,
one.
it's
Okay.
3.
Don't
no,
say the-
no, whoa. No, it's 3, 2, and then go.
Yeah, don't say the
Yeah,
one.
but you don't say and then
I didn't
go.
say the one. No,
Right, I know that. I know. Okay. I'm gonna hit the big red button for intro in 3, 2. This is Elijah. Intro, sync 1.
This is Kenna, intro sync 2.
This is Anthony. Intro, sync 3.
Intro in 3, 2. Hello, captains, and Happy New Year. You're listening to episode 395 of Priority 1, a Roddenberry Star Trek podcast, and your weekly report from the Star Trek multiverse. Recorded live on Tuesday, January 8th, 2019, and available for download or streaming on Friday, January 11th at PriorityOnePodcast.com. Recorded live on Tuesday, January 8th, 2009, and available for download or streaming on Friday, January 11th at PriorityOnePodcast.com.
Warp again. You want to try that again?
Why? What'd I say?
But like put it in this decade.
What'd I say?
Apparently it's 2009.
Oh, did I?
Back when they were in the middle of a recession, and they didn't have Facebook Live, and I don't know what else happened in 2009.
You know what? Okay.
I had a 3-year-old.
Recorded
so
live on Tuesday, January 8th, 2019, and available for download or streaming on Friday, January 11th at PriorityOnePodcast.com. I'm Elijah.
I'm Kenna.
And I'm Anthony.
Well, we all hope that you had a wonderful break, and we missed you terribly. Right, guys?
Yes, we did. Yes,
God.
yes, we did.
Oh yeah, totally.
Can we? Right, guys?
We don't need to. That's super awkward, Elijah. It's
All right,
fine.
You are the worst. All right, Kenna. Why don't we jump on in? Tell us what we've got in store this week.
Well, we're checking out the news that there are even more Star Trek shows in the work than we. Well, we're checking out the news that there are even more Star Trek shows in the works than we previously thought. And Alex Kurtzman gives us concrete details about the setting of the Picard series, due out later this year. Anson Mount and Ethan Peck are discussing their upcoming roles as Pike and Spock, and it's looking like the 4th Kelvin timeline movie has been shelved. In Star Trek Online and gaming news, there are some changes coming to the Crystalline Catastrophe featured. What? Crystalline. Featured.
The Crystalline Catastrophe featured TFO.
TFO.
Or you could just take it out. Yeah.
Oh my god, it's the 9th anniversary already?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
In Star Trek Online and gaming news, there are some changes coming to the Crystalline Catastrophe featured TFO, and we have the first details for the 9th anniversary update. In our on-screen segment, we're discussing the latest short trek, The Escape Artist. And as always, before we wrap up the show, we'll open hailing frequencies for your incoming messages.
Captains, remember that those hailing... Captains, remember that those hailing frequencies are always open, and we love to hear from you between episodes, so please reach out to us. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/Priority One Podcast. We're on Twitter and Instagram at Priority One Pod. You can even send us an email via incoming@PriorityOnePodcast.com.
And new year, new goals. Captains, we had a fantastic 2018. Thanks in large to our patrons. Because of their support, we're able to upgrade our tech. For instance, the introduction of our new Restream program that allows us to stream our live episode recordings on Tuesday nights to multiple platforms like Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and more. Something that we can also share with the Armada. Because of our patrons, we're able to do these upgrades to bring you more content each and every week. Not to mention, we've already hit the ground running this year with After Hours. Our first episode covered the season premiere of The Orville. That's additional podcasts just for our patrons. Now, you can check out all the perks and what you get in return by visiting us over at patreon.com/Priority One. But for $10, you get the raw, unedited recording of Priority One podcast. You get After Hours, an entirely separate podcast that covers things like The Orville or whatever sci-fi news might be happening in the week. You'll also get early access to interviews and much more. Now, of course, we understand that a financial contribution may not be in the cards, and don't forget you don't have to donate $10. You can donate $1, and we're still so very grateful. But if that financial contribution isn't in the cards, then there are other ways that you can support Priority One. For instance, when you see us go live on social media platforms, be sure to retweet and share that we're live. Or when you see us post an episode, share that too. Let your fellow Trekkies know that they can get their weekly roundup of Star Trek news right here on Priority One Podcast.
Did you get the new patron? I'm sorry.
There's a new patron.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of patrons, we have a new patron. Speaking of patrons, we have to say hello to Jonathan for joining the Patreon community. Thank you so very much for believing in Priority One Podcast and offering up a financial contribution each month. Because honestly, without your support, none of this would be possible.
Now, Captains, before we move on, we have a few dates that we want you to mark in your calendars. First up, next week on Thursday, January 17th, Elijah and Anthony will be in New York City for the season premiere of Star Trek Discovery. Right now, the event is full, but you can still sign up to be put on a wait list. We're teaming up with Geek Life Rules for trivia, raffles, and of course, to watch the premiere together. Proceeds for the raffle will go to Chase Masterson's anti-bullying Pop Culture Hero Coalition.
And on February 16th, we are celebrating our 400th episode. Can you believe it? We're only 5 episodes away from that, guys. 5 episodes.
I know. That's incredible.
And we're doing quite a bit to celebrate. First of all, we'll be on campus at campus.
And on campus at Cryptic Studios.
First of all, we'll be on campus at Cryptic Studios celebrating our 400th episode with them. And you can be sure to receive tons of content because we will be doing interviews and we will be seeing what they're working on while we're there.
Totally going to peep that whiteboard.
Patrons will get early access to that. But most importantly, to celebrate our 400th episode, on February 16th, Saturday, starting at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, we are doing an Extra Life campaign. We will be raising money. I should probably read the thing. We will be raising money via Extra Life for the Children's Miracle. Oh my God.
Why don't you read? The Priority One team will be playing games live on Twitch to raise money for Extra Life's partnership.
Got it.
I think that's good enough. I don't even think you need to read it now.
So the important date. Yeah, okay. For 12 hours, the Priority One team will be playing games live on Twitch to raise money for Extra Life's partnership with Children's Miracle Network and the Philadelphia Children's Hospital. We have giveaways from our friends like the Roddenberry store and more. And again, all the proceeds will go to Extra Life and the Philadelphia Children's Hospital. This happens on Saturday, February 16th, starting at 1 p.m. Eastern. Captains, we're counting on you to help us save a future Trekkie's life. Links to all the information to all these events will, of course, be in our show notes.
Now, let's check out all the latest news from the Star Trek multiverse.
Okay, everybody hit stop. So this is great. This is amazing. Look at that. Look, we're talking to our friends on YouTube. We've got Twitch, Facebook, of course. Unfortunately, when I type in this chat thing, I can't. It won't push to Facebook. It pushes to Twitch, Periscope, and YouTube, but it won't. I guess whatever the API is doesn't talk well with Facebook, but I still see everything, so I can very easily reply to somebody verbally. Yeah, this is just great. This is amazing.
It's kind of cool, actually. I'm really impressed. We're getting a lot of interaction on platforms other than Facebook, which is wonderful. I know that there are some people who don't like Facebook, so it's good to be able to give people options, and the fact that we can all chat with each other when we can chat and use English words, like some people sometimes are able to do.
What people? Nobody I know.
What people? I don't know.
No one I know. All right, I'm uploading this.
Sorry.
Look at that.
We're missing.
And somebody on YouTube is now going to go over to Twitch and follow us on Twitch. That's great.
Sweet.
Awesome.
Hello, Asgardian Empire from Xbox One.
And some people are playing Stowe while they're watching us.
That's great. That's good. I like that. This is amazing. I'm glad we found this.
We're living in the future.
We are living
in the future.
Oh, we're going to miss Jim DeVico. Jim DeVico is not going to the city.
What are we doing? We're doing Trek It Out.
Trek It Out.
Trek It Out.
It's Trek.
No, I do Trek
You do
It
this?
Out.
Trek
I
It
do,
Out.
I do go straight Trek.
I thought we were
It
doing
Out.
Trek It Out. But
no, because what's
that's
that?
better. Well, that's
nothing.
That's the Los Volcans Locos.
We're from the west side of the forge, yo.
Oh my God, we should
want to make so
Where
many.
all my Mausoleas at?
Oh my God, no.
I'm gonna cosplay as a.
I'm gonna come back in
Gangsta
2 weeks'
Vulcan.
time. I'm gonna have some sick jokes about that.
I thought you were gonna cosplay
Think
as
about it
the
hard.
breakdancing
breakdancing
Telosian.
No, I'm not doing that one. If I do it, I'm
There's
gonna
5 days of STLV. There's a lot of
Volcans
days.
Locos,
Oh,
man.
I'll go as the breakdancing Telosian.
All right.
Okay. God, I kind of want to do that too.
All right.
What are you gonna do for a head?
I mean, I'll just shave this and.
Oh, that's true. I can't do
I
that.
mean,
That's
you don't know. For all you know, Kenna, my chin and neck are really tiny. So when I shave this off, I just look like a little Telosian as it is.
I want that to be true. Like you grew a beard because you were like really self-conscious.
I'm
about
very
your
self-conscious
really
about my tiny
face.
chin.
Like it actually
My
just
tiny chin.
ends. Like where you can see your cheeks join your beard. Like that's actually where your face ends. It's all hanging directly off the bottom of your face.
I can neither confirm nor deny that.
All
right. I'm gonna hit the big red button for Trek It Out in 3, 2. This is Elijah. Trek It Out. Sync 1.
This is Kenna. Trek It Out. Sync 2.
This is Anthony. Trek It Out. Sync 3.
Trek It Out in 3, 2. If you liked short treks like If you liked short treks like the idea of animated Star Trek, or just want more Star Trek in general, then you may want to send Star Trek helmsman Alex Kurtzman something nice. In a Creative Space interview set to be published on January 9th, Kurtzman told The Hollywood Reporter that animation was a specific area of interest for Star Trek and said there will be a, quote, minimum of 2, end quote, animated shows in production. He continued, quote, there's other animated things that we're building that are an entirely different perspective. Stupid ice. He continued, quote, there's other animated things that we're building that are on an entirely different perspective and an entirely different tone from Lower Decks. What's exciting about it, What's exciting about it is not only looking at each animated series as what's the different tone, but what's the different technology. We can apply to these things so that visually they're entirely different, end quote. Further, Kurtzman may have clued us on the subject matter of the newest kids-focused animated Trek, quote...
Sorry, can you take it from further? It's clued us in on the subject matter.
Oh, what'd I say?
You said clued us, which doesn't really make sense.
Oh. Further, Kurtzman may have clued us in on the subject matter of the newest kids-focused animated Trek. Quote, I go back to my childhood and Luke Skywalker, the farm boy who looks out at the twin suns of Tatooine and imagines his future. Trek never gave me that. Trek was always fully formed adults, already in Starfleet, and people who have decided who they are. And it never was aspirational that way. It's important to me to find a way to go back and reach younger kids in a way that Trek should and never... It's important to me to find a way to go back and reach younger kids in a way that Trek should and never has... It's important to me to find a way to go back and reach younger kids in a way that Trek should and never really has. End quote. The Hollywood Reporter also reported that 2 new short treks, both animated, have been ordered and are set to air in the spring, following, of course, the wrap-up of Discovery's 2nd season.
I love all of this.
Yeah.
All of it,
Yeah.
Basically.
So,
next.
Yes, I like, you know what I like is the comparison he made with Star Wars. That's true. That is very true.
Yeah.
When I was a kid watching TNG, I guess it wasn't Wesley that drew me in. That's for sure. But it was this idea of the future and space exploration. But comparing it to Luke, on Tatooine, looking out into the galaxy and wondering what lies in the future, I get that. I like that. We might see a journey for younger kids.
What I love about this is that this is going to ensure the longevity of Star Trek for another generation. Yeah. And that is something that Star Wars has done very successfully in their cultivation of new fans through the prequels, through the Clone Wars, through Star Wars Rebels, the animated series, through this new collection of animated shows that they have going. And that is one thing that's led to their success. And I think that this is something that Star Trek desperately needs. And I'm glad that they're putting a priority on it, because I'll be honest with you, my young kids are 6 and 3, and they think Star Trek is boring. And this is something...
a 3-year-old, it is boring.
Well, exactly. And this is something that I can introduce to them. Hopefully they'll like, and something we can share together and, sort of bring them the gospel.
Now, there's one thing that we didn't touch on that's in that same article from the Hollywood Reporter. And they actually, I'm not really sure what source they have for this, but they talk about the Star Trek Discovery, short treks, the Untitled Picard series, but then they also make reference to a Discovery spinoff starring Michelle Yeoh and a younger skewing Starfleet Academy from Josh Schwartz and Stephanie Savage from the OC as being among other projects in the works. Now, they don't cite exactly where that comes from, but it's really interesting to me in particular that they've actually attached names to the Starfleet Academy series that's in the works as well. So that's sort of hidden in there, certainly less concrete. But what's coming out of this is we're getting more details of all of the myriad of little tendrils that they're exploring in the Star Trek space. And so far, I am liking absolutely everything I hear.
During the previously mentioned Creative Space interview with The Hollywood Reporter, Alex Kurtzman discussed the untitled Picard series and told us a bit about getting Sir Patrick Stewart back into the role of Jean-Luc Picard. Kurtzman, along with Akiva Goldsman and Kirsten Beyer, pitched the idea to Kirsten
Beyer.
Kurtzman, along with Akiva Goldsman and Kirsten Beyer, pitched the idea to Stewart, who asked for a 3-page outline. The trio, along with Michael Chabon, handed in the pitch, but, quote, it turned into a 34-page document. With no way to shorten it, we were going all in, and he was going to read it or not read it, love it or hate it. It was our best attempt at trying to get him to say yes, end quote. The conversation continued with the Digital Spy. Kurtzman told the website, quote, it was a very emotional thing for all of us to engage with each other because Patrick needed to make sure that we were coming from the right place and that we wanted to protect what Next Gen means to so many people and what his character specifically means to so many people, end quote. But that's not all. During the interview, Kurtzman told the Hollywood Reporter, quote, Picard's life was radically altered by the dissolution. Yeah, that's right. Dissolution. Picard's life, quote, Picard's life was radically altered by the dissolution of the Romulan Empire, end quote. Of course, Kurtzman is referring to the events of 2009's Star Trek, the first Kelvin universe film. No other information was given about the premise of that as yet untitled series, but what we got was a spicy chicken nugget.
Jeez.
I guess we'll have to stay tuned for more information.
I don't hate this idea, right? The destruction of Romulus from the Hobus supernova is Prime Universe, right?
Yep.
If you read the IDW comics leading up to the JJ versus Kelvin timeline split, that happened.
Yeah, the countdown.
That happened in the Prime Universe, right? What we know to be the Prime Universe. And seen
Picard
this
was involved with the development of the jellyfish ship in that comic. He's in that comic.
Right, he is in that comic.
And he's the ambassador to Romulus, isn't he?
He's the ambassador
to Vulcan. That's right.
Right.
So, I'm not disappointed with this in any way, shape, or form. And then we've also seen what Star Trek Online has done with what happened to the Romulan Empire 30 years after Nemesis. So I'm curious to see what they'll do that may affect Star Trek Online's story, right? And how Star Trek Online treated the Romulans. But I think this makes sense, right? We understand him to retire to be an ambassador to Vulcan. This happens, and Spock is gone. Spock was the ambassador to Romulus.
Yep.
Now Picard might need to step in for Spock, right? He carries his Katra. Yeah. I'm sorry, he carries Sarek's Katra.
Yeah, it's a totally relevant storyline for us to explore with Picard. He was involved in Unification 1 and 2, where they're trying to unify the Vulcans and the Romulans. So he's got a relationship that pre-exists with the Romulans, and it's a totally relevant place for us to start with Picard's story. And it's also the first opportunity that we really can tell a story that hasn't been told before, because I think the Hobus disaster is the last point in the Prime timeline that we've actually explored so far in canon, if I'm correct, I think. My only hesitation is that it gives us a very limited context to work in, and this feels like it's going to be a very limited constrained series. Because if that's the premise that you're starting with, it's not very open-ended. If you're talking about Picard and his coping with the Hobus disaster, then that feels to me like a limited series and a story that you're going to tell. It doesn't feel open-ended. It doesn't feel 7 seasons of the adventures of old Picard. So I think it's totally relevant. I am curious to find out what that is actually going to mean and what that series is going to look like overall.
I was not a fan of this idea when I heard it. I'll be honest with you. I read this and I was like, really? They're really going to bring, the events of the Kelvin film into it? And then the more I thought about it, the more I loved it. And because the last thing we see Picard doing on screen is he's fighting a mirror version of himself that the Romulans created in order to throw chaos into the Federation. That was the goal. And then they abandoned it, as they do with their projects. And then and granted, Nemesis, not a great film or even a great Star Trek film, but I think that this has the potential of not really rectifying Nemesis, but it allows us to bring in some of those elements. Yeah, giving it more substance, number one. Also, his relationship with Spock, the fact that Spock has disappeared, he, like you said, he carries a part of Sarek inside him. That must be devastating for him, just with the loss of Spock alone is going to devastate him. The Romulan Empire is now in disarray, and the other thing is that there's an opportunity of what we know from Michael Burnham's relationship to Sarek that I would not be surprised if Picard mentions Michael Burnham at some point in the show. Now, I hope it's earned. I hope that moment's earned if they try to connect the two in a certain way. But there's an opportunity here to really bring a lot of the Star Trek mythos together under one show. And Kenna, I can see your concerns a little bit, but I think that this is pertaining to the emotional state of Picard, and then there's going to be an external conflict that he's going to have to deal with. I wouldn't be surprised if he has some responsibility with the reconstruction of the Romulan government in some way, or perhaps even he wants to be involved and maybe the Federation doesn't want him involved because of things. I think there's a real opportunity to go in a lot of different directions. I actually see it as a little bit more open-ended than possibly another type of storyline. So I'm really excited about this now.
Okay, well, sticking with TV, but switching gears a little bit. Thanks. I was trying to think exactly. You screwed it up. So
you segued right into your microphone. Sorry.
Slow.
So sticking with TV, but switching gears a little bit, Star Trek Discovery's marketing team is making one last push, getting the word out that January 17th, the air date for Season 2's premiere episode, Brother, is right around the corner. CBS All Access has released a video featuring Anson Mount entitled Becoming Pike. While many of the opinions and insight in the video have been expressed before, Mount gave a new look into Pike's leadership style, saying, quote, "He is completely unafraid to admit he has no idea what the right decision is. He utilizes his crew as much as commands them. I think that's a really good quality in a leader," end quote. Mount reinforces these comments in an interview with Entertainment Weekly, telling the website, quote, "Kirk has a swagger and is good at thinking outside the box because he's a rule breaker. Pike is very by the book. He refers to the Starfleet Code of Conduct more often than not. What sets him apart from other captains, especially from Lorca, is he knows, like any good leader, the most precious resource is his crew. When he's stuck, he's not afraid to say, 'I'm lost. Anybody got a better idea?' He uses the bridge as a bigger brain," end quote. Check out the EW.com article for some new stills, and be sure to check out Becoming Pike. Some fun new clips and a bit of canon can be found there. Links, as always, will be in the show notes.
I want Season 2 right now. I want Captain Pike right now.
Oh man, 1 week. Well,
I need it. I need it now. I need it now.
Discovery's Anson Mount wasn't the only Star Trek newcomer to promote Season 2. Ethan Peck, the latest actor to don the iconic Spock ears, sat down with TV Insider to give a little perspective on this new Spock. Peck says of Discovery-era Spock, quote, "He's not yet fully realized. I view this time in his history as an opportunity for us to explore Mr. Spock's genesis. It's during this moment that he reconciles his human and Vulcan sides, so we see him sway between extremes of emotion and logic," end quote. He continues, quote, I don't know why we do the end quote. He continues, quote, of emotion and logic. He's absolutely more emotional than we've seen him before. Those feelings erupt from deep within him, triggered by a traumatic event. He's dealing with his human side for the first time since childhood, a process that is essential to his development, end quote. Peck also answered questions about specs.
Didn't put that there. I promise. I'm certain it's a typo.
No, that's what they're calling him.
That's what they're calling him, but yeah.
Spec.
Peck also answered questions about Spock's relationship with his stepsister, Michael Burnham. Quote, "It's badly damaged, and this season explores where it stands and where it can go," end quote.
It's really interesting. Both of these two stories with Anson Mount and Ethan Peck, both of these actors talk a lot about their character and their character's motivation. And I know actors do that, like, it's my motivation. But I'm hoping that it's actually setting us up for a little bit more introspective type of storytelling, where we're learning about characters and how they grow and how they fit into what we know about Starfleet. And so I'm kind of looking forward to that, especially the things that Anson Mount was talking about with leadership. I expect my captains to be really great leaders and aspirational leaders. I saw that from Captain Picard. I saw that in Captain Janeway. And we did not see that with Lorca. And I'm looking forward to seeing that with Anson Mount. I'm not sure how I feel about Spock, and he's all like emotional and stuff, but I'm just gonna kind of give him a pass on that because I don't know how it's gonna play out.
I'm really looking forward to Anson Mount's portrayal of Christopher Pike. I think that the Menagerie is a great pilot episode for
The Cage.
For any show. Yeah, you're right. It's The Cage. I think that The Cage is a great pilot episode for anything, especially for television of its time. And he's obviously been through a lot when we see him at The Cage, right? He's unloading on his doctor, the pressures of being a captain. So although he may be a great leader, that doesn't mean that he's not flawed, or not just flawed, but just a human who is stretched a bit too thin. So I really would like to. I am really looking forward to exploring this character in the way that I think Discovery will, and I don't think we're going to love him any less than we might already do just from what we know in canon.
What I love about bringing Pike into Discovery Season 2 and him being the captain, of the ship in the series for this season, is that not only is it in the show, in the story, he's sort of restoring the crew's faith in a captain because of their experience with Lorca in Season 1, but also a lot of Discovery fans kind of felt cheated that they didn't get that captain that you described, kind of, the one that you can look up to, the inspiring leader. And I feel like this is sort of their way of somewhat correcting that and giving us more of the Star Trek flavor that we know and love.
Kat in the chat says Lorca forever.
Oh, I do like a bit of Lorca. Don't get me wrong. I'm hoping that Sorry, slight sidebar. I'm hoping that we get to see Prime Lorca in some capacity, and I hope that he's just wonderful as we wanted him to be before he turned out to be predictably evil.
How should I transition to this?
That might all get cut, so you can just. Oh, did you have the last word?
Yeah, he had the last word.
I tried to talk second, but you ran over me, so I just waited.
Yeah, Elijah.
Go ahead. Actually, Kenna, why don't you do it?
And finally this week, the Game of Thrones prequel series has named its series premiere director. And if you're wondering why that's relevant, it's because the new director is S.J. Clarkson. Deadline announced that the presumed first woman silver screen Star Trek director would helm the game. Yeah, that's really awkward. Deadline announced that the presumed first woman Star Trek director would helm the Game of Thrones prequel.
Prequel premiere.
It's words.
Prequel. It's pilot. No, I know. But it's awkward words.
Thanks, Will. Have a good night.
Deadline announced that the presumed first woman silver screen Star Trek director would helm the Game of Thrones prequel pilot, and Star Trek 4 may be in a bit of trouble. According to the article, quote, Clarkson was recruited by HBO for Game of Thrones after she recently became available. Earlier this year, Clarkson was the first female director to be tapped to direct a Star Trek movie when she was hired to helm the fourth feature in the current series. That project has since been shelved, end quote. Now, there has been Trekulation aplenty, but from IO9, quote, we reached out to Paramount reps to clarify the current status of Star Trek 4, and they told us they had no comment at this time, end quote. Both articles will be linked in the show notes, so check them out.
I don't care anymore.
This is not really a surprise. It's kind of been tacitly understood. I mean, I was really looking forward to S.J. Clarkson being the director of Star Trek 4, but I think it was sometime like early last year we knew that Chris Pine and Zachary Quinto were having contract negotiation difficulties, and that kind of fell through, and we've kind of had no more movement since then, except for that whole Megan What's-Her-Face speculation. The thing is, so I was reading a few articles. Every single one of them goes back to Deadline for saying that the project has been shelved. We haven't really had confirmation whether Star Trek 4 has been shelved. We don't technically know, but it is a plausible theory. Evidence points to that being the case, at least for the time being.
The great news is this is not the only Star Trek that we're getting, so we don't have to hang all of our hopes and dreams on it.
Right, and yes, the JJ movies caused a significant amount of debate. They still do. Beyond the first one and Beyond were fun adventures. The second one was blasphemous. I don't even want to say it's the title of the movie.
Into Blasphemy.
Into Blasphemy. They're fun adventures, right? But really, Star Trek has always done its best work on the small screen. So, we're obviously getting that. Kurtzman has the ship full steam ahead to produce several incarnations of Star Trek, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, the Paramount only has ground to lose right now. It's going to be hard for them to compete against the Kurtzman juggernaut that's going on right now. It's probably a good idea for them to take a pause, at least for a little while, and then get it right.
And not for nothing, Discovery is remarkably cinematic for it being small screen. I mean, it is film, big screen. It is big screen worthy.
It's actually a little too cinematic for my taste, but that's another discussion.
Did we read the community question? Wasn't there a community question?
Oh, no, we did not.
We did not read the community question.
Well, before we move on to Star Trek news, we do have a community question for this week's Trek It Out. Captains, what do you think the destruction of the Romulan Empire will affect? How? Captains, how do you think? How?
How? You actually, you don't hate me. You actually said before we move on to Star Trek news. So can you like do the whole thing over again?
Well, that wraps up Trek It Out this week. But before we move on to Star Trek Online and gaming news, we have a community question. Captains, how do you think the destruction of the Romulan Empire will affect the Picard series? Let us know in the comments section for this episode at priority1podcast.com/PO395 or by replying to our community question posts on our social media platforms like Facebook and Twitter.
Now let's find out what happened this week in the world of Star Trek gaming.
Everybody hit stop.
Stop.
Guys, you know what I love? It's 12:30. We're gonna do feedback and closing, and then we're done. We don't have to do.
Well, February Fools.
February Fools.
We also have on screen to do.
Oh crap! Forgot about that.
Totally forgot about that, didn't you? Completely forgot about it.
I always forget about on screen. Yo, if I don't put it in the assignments for the audio editors, somebody please bring it to my attention this week. Anybody?
Yes, I'll keep an eye on you for that.
No.
I love how you're over there trying to pass the buck. This is what happened when he was ill, and I tried to give out the audio assignments, and he was like all getting in there, taking over, despite the fact that he was delirious.
He's like Kirk.
To assign anybody.
He's like Kirk
on screen, and then Friday he's like, I didn't assign anybody to do on screen. Kenna, it's your fault. you didn't check my work.
When Bones tells you to go to your quarters and rest, and you don't let Spock run the ship, and then
he doesn't listen to me when he's ill. He doesn't listen to me. Part of his delirium.
Do I ever listen to you? Ever?
I'm sorry, what now?
I said, do I ever?
No, dude, you totally missed that.
Oh, what did you do? Oh.
Just don't tell him. It's too hard to explain now.
It's fine.
It's fine.
Moving on.
Did we copy that CQ into closing? I'm just gonna check.
I think I did. Nice. I think I did.
Nicely done.
You're welcome.
Right. So full disclosure, I have not read through the recap yet. So this will be interesting.
Did you watch the episode?
Of course I did.
Ooh,
sorry. Of course I did. I tried to peek.
I've never... What?
Sorry.
You tried to what?
You'll hear about it in a few minutes.
Oh,
you know my feelings on...
This is gonna be fun.
It's gonna be super fun, guys.
This is gonna be so much fun.
It's so much fun. It's so congested. It's fun.
Are you making fun of me?
Yeah,
are you making fun of me?
You have that congestion where at the end of the words you add a consonant.
So I sound like
Fun.
Stewie.
Fun.
No,
Stewie sounds like this. It's a very different sound. You don't sound, this is Stewie. You just like this.
Okay. Really? Because it sounded the same.
It's not.
I can't believe you're making fun of me. I don't feel good. That's not nice.
I don't feel good. Okay.
You should submit a complaint to HR, Anthony.
I have a hurt feelings report if you want one. You can submit.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Oh, funny? Somebody quick talk. Yeah, okay, good.
He muted it, but it's still stuck to him. That was good. It's funny. Okay. I'm gonna hit the big. Are you ready?
Yeah.
I'm gonna hit the big red
ready
button.
as I'll ever be.
In 3, 2. This is Elijah on screen. Sync 1.
This is Kenna on screen. Sync 2.
This is Anthony on screen. Sync 3.
On screen in 3, 2.
Well, Captains, welcome to On Screen, where we dissect the latest episode of Star Trek. And I thought this sentence was going to go on further, so let me start it again. Well, Captains, welcome to On Screen, where we dissect the latest episode of Star Trek. This week, Short Treks, The Escape Artist.
We start with a decidedly disco intro song and open on Harcourt Fenton Mudd, thrown to the floor of a Tellarite trade freighter. His captor, a tall, masked female bounty hunter, receives payment from the Tellarite trader and ignores insults and bribes from the bruised Mudd before departing. We learn that Harry has been sold to Tevrin Crit, an angry Tellarite whose sister slept with Harry before he absconded with the family's sacred cudgel. Mudd denies the allegations, claiming he's an honorable man, but is interrupted by his Starfleet rap sheet. With a list that includes smuggling, regicide, and penetrating a space whale, it's no surprise the Federation is offering a 100,000 credit reward. A little worming by Mudd leads us to a flashback. A Klingon, familiar insults, and a kick to the face bring us right back to the Tellarite ship.
More warming, including the recollection of his...
Can you say worming, not warming?
More worming, including the recollection of his forbidden tryst with Tevrin's sister and a story about Mudd's membership in a secret resistance. And another flashback. This time, Mudd is being led around by a short female bounty hunter with a poor sense of direction. A few underwhelming flirtations, and back to the here and now. Tevrin asks Mudd about his supposed wealth, but Mudd declares he has lost what little he had to the Federation taxman, saying if he had any money, he'd be sipping jippers on a beach somewhere. Tevrin presses, and Mudd's continued denial leads us to, you guessed it, another flashback. Mudd is suspended by his wrist, bragging about his wealth in an attempt to bribe an Orion male. Capes seem to be the selling point, until an Orion woman enters. Capes seem to be the selling point. No capes, until an Orion woman enters, pointing out the camera in the room. Actually. Capes seem to be a selling point until an Orion woman enters, pointing out the camera in the room. No capes. A clumsy excuse from the man and more flirtatious remarks from Harry lead to a what?
I don't even know what he's... Cubicution?
Like execution? Okay. A clumsy excuse... Like, she does the cube and it
she throws... Yeah, but it's not really a cube.
Like...
It's like a hexagon or something. Like...
A clumsy excuse from the man and more flirtatious
sorry,
remarks from
I believe
Harry leads to a electrocution with some Orby-looking device. And once again, we're back to the bridge of the Tellarite ship.
Tevrin's ship finally rendezvous with the USS DeMilo, and the pair beam over to the Federation vessel. The officer sent to meet Crit seems weary when he recognizes something about the Tellarite and his prize. The officer asks if Mudd was purchased from a tall female bounty hunter, then explains that the Tellarite's captive isn't Harcourt Fenton Mudd, but an android duplicate of that criminal. A door opens and half a dozen Mudd replicants are exposed. A disco-y song about drinking jippers on a beach somewhere is performed, and then the big reveal. It turns out that the tall female bounty hunter isn't a female at all. It's Harcourt Fenton Mudd. On a ship run by several Mudd replicants, the criminal receives a call and sets up another Mudd transaction, then offers a cudgel as well. The end.
So, you know what my biggest takeaway is from this episode? Is that they have done a remarkable job with music for short treks. And arranging the original theme, and then also exploring with other orchestrations. You know, for these little short treks, right? These little I'm going to call them throwaway episodes. They've put quite a lot of money into them. Like, there's no doubt about it. There's quite a significant level of production value to these. As far as the episode goes, and this particular one, I didn't hate it. I didn't hate it, but I definitely didn't love it. It was cute, I guess. Like, Okay. Oh, yeah, he does the android thing. Oh, yeah, of course I remember, because he made the android females on that planet. It makes all sense. It's tying together. But that was it. Like, it was, haha, like, what a fun little romp down a valley. You know, like, let's roll down a valley. Like, that's it. That's all it was for me.
I thought that this was surprisingly the most well written of the four. I thought that it was structured nice. I thought that it was executed very well. I didn't find it particularly, spectacular or like, oh wow. I found it cute and funny, and I enjoyed it, but it was not as like it didn't pop for me like the Tilly one did, or the Saru one even. Like, I feel like those two were more informative or more
Had more
like
substance.
Yeah, exactly. There was more to them, and they felt there was more depth to them. And this one I thought was, like I said, I feel like it was the most well written and executed one out of the four, but it was also kind of like predictable and safe. I didn't catch the twist at the end. I didn't know that was coming, but I did enjoy it. I do very much enjoy this iteration of Mudd's character, and I know Kenna's going to give us an earful in a minute, but
How did yeah.
but I like specifically, and I'll say this iteration of Mudd, because I feel like this is a different iteration of Mudd than the other one. And I know that there's a link to an article that we have in our production notes where Rainn Wilson is very much aware of the darkness and negative aspects of Harry Mudd from the original series, and he's even aware that that all of us except for Kenna tends to remember just the funny and humorous parts about it. And I like the fact that he is combining the two in a way to almost give us a more honest representation of Mudd in these in Discovery than what we got in the original series, if that makes any sense.
One last thing I want to say, because I know Kenna's being quiet because she's going to unleash fury. With respect to the positives of the episode, it's not, again, it's not that it's a fun Harry Mudd episode, but you're right. This one was actually surprisingly well written. It definitely could have been anybody but Mudd. But I found the dialogue was refreshing, and the dynamic between Mudd and the Tellarite was also refreshing. It was a side of Star Trek that we don't often get to see. We saw a little bit of things like that with Enterprise when Archer gets captured by the Tellarite. Like, that's kind of what it reminded me a little bit of, but this one was more, the dialogue was more real. It wasn't heightened, wasn't theatrical. It was
honest to the characters.
Right.
And I really like this iteration of Mudd, and I feel like there's an intangible thing about him that I think they almost had to bring the character back if they wanted a character like this. And the other thing is, I'll end with this. I'll end with this, and then we'll hand it over to Kenna. This gives me hope for the Lower Decks animated series, because the writer of this short trek is going to be the head writer for the Lower Decks show, and seeing how well this one was written, I'm more excited about that animated series.
Okay. So first of all, I want to say that the reason that I have been quiet is not because I've been just sharply drawing in my breath for the last 5 minutes in anticipation of a huge rant. That's not going to happen today. I think I've been pretty clear in the past about my feelings about Harry Mudd. My problem chiefly with this episode is because it was all about Harry Mudd, I have nothing to say. I wish they hadn't have done it, and I can't see past the choice of the character. I think I'm pretty clear on my opinion that he needs to be left in the past. And I would have liked to see it maybe with a different character. I even give Rainn Wilson a chance to direct somebody else doing a different role. My central issue with this is that it's yet another telling where we're trying to legitimize Harry Mudd. And when it got finished, here's my immediate thought was, well, we might as well do a feature with Bill Cosby's new comedy special. Harry Mudd is an incredibly problematic character and needs to be left in the dust. He's a figment of the 60s that does not pass muster today. And for them to continually try and legitimize that character by doing a new interpretation or anything to continue to give him screen time is wrong, and they need to stop doing it. And because of that, I can't really see any past. And I feel terrible because I feel like I'm being a bit of a cliche. But it's hard for me to take any further delight or joy or see beyond that one choice that the producers and the writers chose to bring Harry Mudd back to our screen in a way that attempts to legitimize him, and they need to not. So, okay, I'm done.
No, you're right. You know, Harry Mudd should be left in the 60s. You know, I didn't like the episodes that he was introduced with in Discovery for several reasons, including what you've explained, but also that just there was no need to bring him in. There was no need to play that fan service, whatever the fan service was for that. That just nothing that he didn't contribute anything to the story of Discovery in season 1. It just didn't help. Like we already said earlier, what was my takeaway for this episode was that great, this is the Rick and Morty guy, fantastic. He's gonna be able to produce something that is witty, that is real, and shows will show a side of the Federation and Starfleet and the Star Trek universe in a lens that we're not used to, right? Like when we talk about the Orville on our Patreon exclusive After Hour show, on our Patreon exclusive
which we film in Canada.
Seth MacFarlane does a great job at spotlighting some of the less flashy parts of humanity, but he doesn't do it dramatically. He does it with humor, right? And I think that the Rick and Morty guy is going to do just that for something like Lower Decks. We're going to see humor, and we're going to see humanity and our silliness brought to light in a way that's not, dramatic. It's not a CW teeny bopper show, it's nothing of that nature. It'll just be funny. It'll be good dialogue.
Yeah, and I want to make it clear as well that in this particular Harry Mudd episode, there wasn't anything in his behavior that I found offensive, actually, which is actually part of my argument and part of the problem, because it's easy to. There were some of his previous performances that I did actually find offensive, but that was not this episode. My criticism is purely the choice to try and legitimize that character again. But I also agree that the type of writing, it was a totally watchable episode, and if it hadn't been Harry Mudd, right, we would be having a completely different discussion.
Right. Yeah, this episode could have been anybody except Harry Mudd. Like it would have been better had it not been Harry Mudd.
Are there no more lovable rogues in the entire galaxy?
I don't know.
There's got to be at least one.
I disagree. I disagree. I mean, I don't want to take away from.
Oh, don't worry. A lot of people disagree with me.
Yeah,
and I accept that. That's my personal take on it. There are a lot of people who agree with me, but there are a lot of people who disagree.
And you have very valid points. And my only response would be that I feel like this version of the character is different enough that I don't connect the two.
But that was my comment about it. Might as well have been followed by the new Bill Cosby series, because I don't care if you don't connect those two characters. It's the same character. It's the same man who did the same things, and you can't reboot that universe. You can't just say it didn't happen, because it did.
And it does, right?
If you're going to disconnect those. If you're going to disconnect the character like that, then you should put the time and effort into developing a new character who hits the same notes and doesn't come with all the problematic things that character comes with from the 60s.
Yeah, I mean,
even the JJ verse did into it. The JJ verse had a throwaway line they did the
mud incident,
the mud incident, and then they also did and they do a throwaway line in the film about how they recovered the shuttle again.
So the shuttle they use
into blasphemy. I don't want to go too much into it, but you know, the disappointing thing is that Rainn Wilson is not great actor. Rainn Wilson is a good comedic actor. He knows his timing well. It would have been nice to have had him develop a new rogue, you know, somebody different. Use him for something else. Have him because he's not even the same Harry Mudd from TOS. It's not Harry Mudd from TOS, right? He's not doofy. Like, the Harry Mudd in TOS is doofy. He's maniacal, but he's also doofy. And Rainn Wilson that's not his portrayal. So there's no reason to do that fan service. Do people really like Harry Mudd that much? Is that really
no? I don't think it was. That's what I'm saying is I don't think it was fan service. I think what it is they wanted a character with those attributes, and they just figured, well, why not just use the character that already exists? Because
and that was a poor decision.
And
but they've created 400 other new characters, including a stepsister for Spock that was never mentioned before. So that's no excuse. There's no reason I have to bring back
Discovery season 2. Turns out that Harry Mudd is Spock's other cousin.
Right. So overall, it was I think in summation, well written in terms of dialogue, in terms of pacing, in terms of production, but I don't want another Harry Mudd episode. I don't want. There's no reason to have him. There was no reason to have him in season 1. That episode, the stupid time travel episode, was.
That's my favorite episode of season 1, by the way.
My God,
that is my favorite episode of Discovery. Is music to make the sanest man go mad. I can't take it anymore. It's my favorite episode.
And you don't like the Orville? You like that garbage, and you don't like the Orville? Get out of here, man.
Oh my God.
Get out of here. That episode was garbage.
I'm firing myself.
That episode was garbage.
It's the best episode of season 1 of Discovery. I cannot believe it.
Oh my God, the next 3 months are going to be very interesting on Priority One.
It's going to be fantastic.
Star Trek podcast.
Well,
that's it for this week's.
Go.
That's it for this week's On Screen. Now let's open hailing frequencies and see what's incoming.
All right, everybody hit stop.
I literally am in the middle of a rewatch of season 1 of Discovery, and I got to that episode and I watched it and I was like, "This is my favorite episode of Discovery."
Are you sure?
I love it. I love it.
Is it the Tamiflu or something? Are you? Is it
most disappointing episode of?
No, it's the best. It is literally
no. It is. It's one of the best up until the last 10 minutes, and then it just drops like a lead balloon, and it disappointed me so much that it's one of my least favorite episodes.
Like what? So what about the last 10 minutes?
because it was like they were writing a really great, cool, interesting, fun episode, and they're like, "Oh shit, we got 8 minutes left of this episode. We got to wrap it up." And then they just kind of they stumbled in, and also they should have killed the space whale.
Don't tell me what you think happened in the writers' room. Tell me what about the episode you think is you didn't like.
That is exactly it. It was disappointing because it was going along very well, and then it failed in the ending. It didn't. It wasn't believable. I don't remember exactly how it ends, but it sort of wrapped up very quickly in a way that was stupid. And also, I believe very, very strongly that Burnham should have killed the space whale. And I don't understand why she didn't. The only reason that she didn't was because the writers didn't want her to, and it was the stupidest thing. She should have killed the damn space whale. She watched everybody she know been killed over and over and over again. She could have killed the space whale and
someone in the Twitch chat says #Kenna kills the whales.
No, I'm not advocating killing endangered species. Yes, I just, in that particular case,
Peter Archibald agrees with me. The groundhog episode was great fun.
It was until if your internet cuts out in the last 10 minutes and you never see the ending. It's a great episode.
But do you not understand the metaphor of the ending? The relationship between Harry Mudd and Stella, and the relationship between Burnham and Tyler, like the whole like.
Why did they let him go? I don't care about a metaphor. It doesn't make any sense. He gives him to his wife and his father-in-law. That's stupid. He should
because that's not where Harry Wood wants to be.
Prison. I don't care what Harry Mudd wants to be. He should have been put in prison. He killed. Murdered people over and over and over again, and they just sent him home with no like security or anything. They're just like, oh, we're gonna give you to your wife. Also, by the way, playing into the whole evil battle axe wife, like, oh, keeps him under her thumb, and the da-da-da. It's awful. The ending is
that is not at all what
Yes, it 100% is. They're playing on the humor from their relationship from TOS, and that is exactly what they're doing.
No, she says
she might as well should have said
possibly, but she says I know. No, she says I know how you're. I know everything about you, and I'm okay with that. She's accepting him. And that's the thing, is that then Burnham sees that, and she realizes that's what love really is. And so all of these things that she has pent up inside of her that she thinks people aren't going to like about her, the fact that Ashley's going to like about her,
and then they should throw him in prison.
That's the subtext of the episode.
You are really digging into the shit. For
I'm not digging. No, that's what the episode's
really
about.
Like, it's like,
because then she goes to Ash, and the last thing she does is Michael Burnham reintroduces herself to Ash Tyler because she feels like a whole new person after what she sees.
Oh my god!
But they still should have thrown him in prison. I don't care about the character moment. It doesn't make any sense.
I don't disagree, but what I'm telling you is the way it affects Michael Burnham is what's the most important about that episode in the story, and that to me trumps whatever they should have done.
No, not worth it. That episode was not worth it for her to have
so good
a love interest with him.
So good.
And then.
Yeah,
it's about her overcoming.
And then Mary Sue her, right? And then she ends up getting Mary Sue.
She's not Mary Sued. What are you talking about? She's not Mary Sued.
I'm not sure I agree with you on that, Elijah.
Not at the end of that episode, but what episode?
Although I will say. But that episode does give you the scene where Stamets and her are dancing in the hallway, which is one of my favorite scenes in all of Star Trek Discovery. So I will agree with you for like 85% of the episode. It's pretty good, and the ending is terrible.
The whole episode,
like not even just like terrible. Oh, it's a bit weak. Like it's terrible.
Oh yeah, they couldn't charge him with anything. They couldn't charge him with anything because he didn't actually do anything.
That's bullshit.
Temporal Mechanics 101.
Yeah, they could have.
Oh really? What grade did you get? What grade did you get at the Academy, Elijah, for Temple Mechanics 101? What was your grade? Please tell me.
I personally had an A+ average in Starfleet Academy, which you will never be able to prove because what happened was I was so smart at Starfleet Academy that I invented a temporal device, and I am coming back to you now, having grown up in the future with my perfect, like. Whatever. I haven't got the energy to keep that up.
All right. That's good feedback.
You want to hear
God,
something? You want to hear something that's really going to drive you crazy? Discovery season 1 is my favorite season of Star Trek ever.
You are a nightmare. You're a monster.
I'm not.
You're a monster.
It's good.
Absolutely.
It's really good.
No, it's
I
not.
bet you like Deep Space Nine too.
I do because it's the best. It's the best show. It's the best Star Trek show.
All right, he just.
It's the best show that's a Star Trek show.
All right,
but the best Star Trek show is Next Generation.
I get. Yeah, I don't. That's like a backhanded compliment to TNG, so I'm not even gonna justify it. I'm gonna hit the big.
All I have to say. No, you're not. I'm going to say one thing about Deep Space Nine. I watched an episode of Deep Space Nine today that made me realize why Commander Sisko's only a commander.
What episode was it? What was the name of it?
The Maquis.
Can you elaborate on that?
Because he okay, I've been in business for quite a long time because, you know, I'm an old lady. I've seen a number of different organizational structures. I've seen small businesses, large businesses, dysfunctional businesses, and, you know, ones that work pretty well. And everything to me about Commander Sisko in that episode is a junior manager who has extremely poor managerial skills and throws a big fat temper tantrum and doesn't deserve to be promoted ever. There's a scene with temper tantrum? There's a scene with him and Admiral Nechayev, who I like squealed when I saw her on screen, and she owns him in the scene. And I don't mean the actress, I mean like the character absolutely owns him. And she walked out of that room and I was like, that is why he's still a commander. And it was the most, like, I was embarrassed on his behalf. I can only say that, and I can't put my finger exactly on what it was, except that I've seen poor managers, poor middle managers in businesses, and that's exactly the way that they behave. It's like he's just got really poor leadership skills.
But can he just stick with the journey? He becomes the leader we're all looking for.
No. Sisko is nowhere near the best part of Deep Space Nine.
I've given up hope.
No. Odo and Kira and Dax.
Everybody except Sisko.
I mean, Bashir's not spectacular
true.
either.
Actually,
like,
of course.
And O'Brien has his moments. Their relationship, O'Brien and Bashir's relationship, is got some really great moments. Yes. But them individually as characters, they don't really have great episodes.
No. All right, feedback. I'm gonna hit the big red button in 3.
Sorry for taking us offline. Okay, go.
2.
Sorry.
This is Elijah. Feedback sync 1.
This is Kenna. Feedback sync 2.
This is Anthony. Feedback sync 3.
And in overwhelming protest, everybody's screaming Garrick in the chat, which I agree with.
Oh yes, Garrick is actually my favorite character from Deep Space Nine.
Feedback in 3, 2.
Agreed.
Well, captains, hailing frequencies are now open, and we're ready to receive all of your incoming messages.
Episode 3.
I miss it. Can you just do it for me?
Incoming.
Can you just do it? Just do it. Just do it for us.
What was it? Well, captains.
Just say the 2 words. Just say.
I can't. For your.
We're at the part of the show where we open hailing frequencies for your incoming messages.
He did it. Okay.
He did the thing he said he does.
Well, episode 394 didn't have a community question, but our friends, you guys, kept the hailing frequencies open.
From Patreon, Sergio writes in, "Hi there. I would not like to let this opportunity pass without saying how much I appreciate all of the effort you guys put into each episode. It is an excellent source of information on everything Trek, but the real magic is the brilliant chemistry the team shows during the discussions. And this happiness is really contagious."
Well, wait till you hear this episode.
And this episode... Okay. And this happiness is really contagious, millions, thousands of miles away. The reason for supporting you through Patreon is quite simple. It is very good, and I want to help in making this continue for as long as you guys manage to. The special perks for patrons are also good, but I must be honest and say that even without them, I would still want to help. So a very honest thanks for all the fun you transmitted in 2018 and before, and the best wishes for more years to great entertainment and fun. Cheers. Cheers, Sergio. Thanks for being a patron.
That was really sweet, actually. I read that and I felt a couple of the feels. That's really, really sweet. That's kind of part of why we do it. Part of it's because, you know, we love talking. Not gonna lie. But to hear that other people actually like listening and tuning in and supporting us is kind of amazeballs. So thank you, Sergio.
We also got... Oh, actually, go ahead, Reed. Go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you also. Being able to, you know, talk about Star Trek and express my opinions and feelings on Star Trek is, you know, something I've always done, but now people listen to me. So that's awesome. And from Twitter, Mike Tripp, also known as @RedshirtPhotog, writes in and says, "This afternoon, I had the honor of photographing the UVA versus Marshall basketball game, and about fell over when I realized Virginia's Cavalier mascot looks just like @P1 Elijah of Priority One Pod. Anyone else see the similarity?"
Oh my God, yes.
Yes.
So yes, I clicked through to this picture, and it looks exactly like Elijah's wearing a silly hat and like a muscle outfit. It's ridiculous.
I'll have you know that I saw this on New Year's Eve, and I passed it around to my friends, and they're like, I don't see it. So, but they
are all lying to you to protect your fragile ego because it looks exactly like you.
I do not
wonderful.
Have a fragile
It's wonderful.
ego.
That's what you would say, though, isn't it?
But
Elijah?
you do often put a feather in your cap, and there it is.
Nice. From PriorityOnePodcast.com, Bertolf says, "Bloop bloop. I want to see the archival evidence of y'all in your onesies now. Maybe that should be a con thing from now on. P1 con team onesie photo shoots." What even is that word?
Shoot,
P1 con team onesie photo shoots. Anywho, hope you guys had a for Pete's sake. Anywho, hope you guys have had a Merry Christmas. Bertolf out. Bloop bloop. I love that he wrote it in the style of a blooper. That's excellent.
This is great. I have always wanted to use my onesie, so this will be perfect. Do you guys have onesies?
Is it thematically appropriate?
Yeah, it's like a footed onesie. It's great. You'll love it, Ken. It's a Harry Mudd costume. No.
You're such a liar. I have a Totoro onesie. I know they make TNG onesies as well. They're quite expensive.
I highly doubt they make a onesie in my size. I'd be surprised.
You might be surprised. Check thinkgeek.com. They have everything.
You know what they do? I think they're called tents. Also from Twitter.
Via email, David Rutley wrote in a very, very heartwarming email as well. It's a little long, so I can't read the entire thing, but I did want to give a shout out to David Rutley also for writing in. He also is a patron of Priority One, and expressed why he enjoys supporting Priority One. A lot of it having to do with gaming over the years and his involvement with Star Trek Online and being a part of Fleets and then finding the show. So a big shout out to David. Thank you so much again for your support too.
And from Twitter, Jason Smith posted not one, but 2 great Happy New Year's posts. And I just want to give a shout out to Jason. He is an active member in the Priority One Armada and usually spends time with us on Saturday nights on our Twitch stream, and comes out and runs events with us, and then takes the most amazing screenshots of the events featuring our ships and our characters. and they just look fantastic. And if you're not following him on Twitter, it's at CalgarJS, CalGarJS. You need to, because he does some fantastic work, and I'm a big fan of his.
Agreed.
All right, everybody hit stop. And save.
Yes, I love Garrick. And in fact, the funny thing is, the very same episode where I lost basically all my respect for Cisco, I actually gained quite a lot for Garrick. There's a moment in that episode where he realizes the government has kind of turned on him, and it's really just a really wonderful little scene. So, yes.
How far are you into the show?
I literally just watched the Maquis.
So that's
Parts 1 and 2. Season 2, I think.
Season 2, the middle of season 2, right? Because that literally is when Voyager premieres. Like, oh no, I'm sorry, that's incorrect. No, Voyager premieres in the middle of the 3rd season.
All right, okay.
But this is setting up for Voyager, because this also happens around the time that right before, so TNG was in season 7, and we're right around the episodes where Ro Laren comes back and joins the Maquis in that undercover, in the undercover where she goes undercover with Will Riker as a Maquis, and then she ends up staying with them.
Right.
Good talk. I'm gonna hit the big red button for closing.
Oh,
Elijah, did you check that list, by the way?
Did I? I did not check that list.
Can I check that real quick, please?
Yeah.
Let me, it'll give me time to upload as well. I did not upload on screen or feedback yet. There we go. Oh, good Lord.
Oh God, you sound terrible.
I actually don't feel that bad. I felt really bad 2 days ago. I actually stayed home from work on Sunday.
Oh dear.
But I don't feel that bad. I just sound bad.
Sorry, it's taking me a second.
Better.
What?
Okay, yeah,
First
it's
of
good.
all,
It's fine.
Don't you have a family that's trying to sleep?
Oh.
It's better actually if you make a lot of noise when they're sleeping, because then they get used to it. Helps them sleep better.
Dude, let me tell you, they're all in one room. There's a noise machine and 2 humidifiers going. It's fine.
That's good. All right. You ready?
So
That's nice.
my family is sound asleep and well moistured.
You ready?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm going to hit the big red button in 3, 2. This is Elijah. Closing sync 1.
This is Kenna closing sync 2.
This is Anthony closing sync 3.
Closing in 3, 2.
Well, that wraps up episode 395 of Priority 1, a Roddenberry Star Trek podcast. For more great podcasts like Mission Log and Mission Log Live, Women at Warp, and The Trek Files, visit podcasts.roddenberry.com.
But we cannot forget to send a special thanks to our patron supporters. Diana Gunther, Peter Archibald, Starkicker, Darnell Dwayne Ross, and David K. Rutley.
And before we go, here's a community question for this week. How do you think the destruction of the Romulan Star Empire will affect the Picard series?
Captains, you know we love hearing from you, so leave us a comment on our website at PriorityOnePodcast.com, on our Facebook page at facebook.com/PriorityOnePodcast, or just find us on Twitter and Instagram at PriorityOnePod.
Don't miss a thing from the Star Trek multiverse. Catch our episodes every Friday by pointing your favorite podcast app to feeds.PriorityOnePodcast.com. You can even join in on the fun while we record our episodes live on Tuesday nights at around 11:30 p.m. Eastern on Facebook. Keep an eye on our social media channels for details.
And if that wasn't enough, be sure to spend time with Admiral Winters and the Priority One Armada. Saturday nights, the Armada takes to our Twitch channel. Saturday nights, the Armada broadcasts on Twitch, Facebook, Periscope, and YouTube, where they review the latest Star Trek Online and Armada news, as well as spotlight some of the amazing members in our community. Each week, we team up with you, the viewers, to earn things like reputation marks and dilithium. With regular rewards and giveaways, there is something for all Star Trek Online players, new and old. Just follow us on twitch.tv/PriorityOne. Or keep an eye on our social media posts about Armada events. And if you'd like to join it, then visit PriorityOneArmada.com.
This episode of Priority One Podcast is brought to you by our patrons through Patreon.com. Find out more and add your support at Patreon.com/PriorityOne. Even if you can't make a financial contribution, please help spread the word about the show and invite your fellow Trekkies. It's your support that keeps us going.
Don't forget to tune in to Priority One Productions' Guard Frequency podcast at guardfrequency.com. Each episode, the Guard will take you inside the universe of your favorite space sims, including a tabletop adventure played out by your hosts. And Heroes Rise brings you up to date with the world of Dungeons and Dragons. Learn all about the latest publications, tools, tips, tricks, and traps in less time than it takes to skin a wyvern. Head over to heroesrisepodcast.com to discover their secrets.
Thanks to audio editors Brandon Parker, James Golding, Rand Hurl, Daniel Stevens, and an old friend of the show, Skiffy. Thanks to producer Jake Morgan for assisting in the writing of our show and social media endeavors, including... We haven't done Tyler. Thanks to producer Jake Morgan for assisting in the writing of our show and social media endeavors. Thanks to our graphic artist and web designer, Henry Pomper. Thanks to the composer of our theme music, Chris Watts. Thanks to our syndication partners, Subspace Radio and Trek Radio. Most importantly, a big thanks to you, the Star Trek community, our listeners, because without your ongoing support, none of this would be possible. Everybody hit stop.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Elijah.
Yeah.
So, okay, Anthony, you know I love you. You had like a really nasty nasal click going on in that last bit, which I don't think there's anything you can do about. But when you go to assemble, you can get those out using the spectral analyzer. Just a point.
Okay. When I might have to QA, and if I have any questions, I'll text you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, everyone, that's a nice successful stream on multiple platforms like Periscope.
All the platforms.
That's right.
We're
Periscope.
on all of them.
Like,
Good night,
people
Peter.
chatting from all places. There's people that I've never heard of over on Twitch.
Yep.
I can't see it because it's
Good night,
tiny.
Jamal. Thank
Somebody
you.
who's just said, "Good evening, all. Sorry I'm late. Hello and welcome. You're really pretty close to the end, but welcome."
So a big thanks to everybody for joining us on all these platforms. It's great to be able to reach out to so many more people during the live streams. It is fantastic, and I'm really looking forward to doing this more. Obviously, every week. You know, we'll be doing it every Tuesday. And for those of you following us on Facebook, be aware that Saturday nights the Armada is also going to be doing this on Facebook, so you're going to get a notification. And if you want to see, if you're not a player of Star Trek Online but have been interested, give it a shot. Check it out. All right, everybody.
Check it out, Aiden.
It's great to be back. We only have 5 more episodes after Friday. 4 more episodes after Friday before our big 400th episode, and I should consider packing for San Jose soon because I already forgot that it's only next month.
Yep.
So yeah, and if you're in the San Jose area, let me know. Reach out. Maybe whatever. I don't know. If there's even time.
Whatever.
Yeah. Whatever. Yeah.
All right, everybody. Have a good night. Say good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you.